Donald Trump is in very obvious decline, and while the mainstream media often refuses to acknowledge that the man's brain is made of pudding that's leaking out of his ears, or that his hands are covered in bruises, it seems like Donald Trump wants us to talk about Donald Trump's decline, because every time he speaks or tries to walk, as we will see today, it doesn't go too well. And that's exactly what we saw. Donald Trump struggling to walk in the White House is losing it because of that reason, with Carolyn Leavitt and the rest of the press staff jumping to try to cover up Donald Trump's health. We're going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into how bad Donald Trump's physical health clearly is and why those cankles are more of just an eyesore, I want to start with how Donald Trump's memory is clearly fading when he was asked about Melissa Hortman right here.
Do you think it would have been fitting to lower the flags to half-staff when Melissa Hortman, the Minnesota House Speaker, was gunned down by an assassin as well?
I'm not familiar. The
Minnesota House Speaker, a Democrat, who was assassinated this summer.
Well, if the governor had asked me to do that, I would have done that. But the governor of Minnesota didn't ask me. I didn't. I wouldn't have thought of that, but I would have if somebody had asked me. People make requests for the lowering of flag, and oftentimes you have to say no because it would be a lot of lowering. The flag would never be up. Had the governor of Minnesota asked me to do that, I would have done that gladly.
And given the killing
Of course, the man who is trying to exploit Charlie Kirk's death for every little bit of political gain he can possibly get out of it does not care about a Democratic lawmaker who was struck down in her house. For that very reason, because she is a Democratic lawmaker, Donald Trump does not care. He's a man who consistently threatens blue states with withholding disaster relief, not recognizing that there are people who voted for him in those blue states, or the more basic level that there are people in those states, the sick individual that Donald Trump is. No, of course he doesn't care. So it leads you to believe one of two things. Either the White House staff, who clearly wrote the post that Donald Trump made on that day about Melissa Hortman, never told him because they knew he wouldn't care, or he cares so little that he has completely forgotten because his memory is broken. But I think it is such an important thing to highlight in this moment when we hear so much outrage from the conservatives about political violence and say that it's the fault of the left. But when a radical right-wing lunatic who voted for Trump, but was a big supporter of his, struck down a Democrat, they don't care. Look how much they didn't care on Fox.
It wasn't school indoctrination. Carrie Lake went off on that. He was in an online apprenticeship program at Dixie Technical College, which I don't think was changed.
I would just note the family
but
said
they didn't
he
say
changed.
when he changed.
Yeah.
I'm just saying we need more information before you
Charlie
smear.
Kirk at a dinner
Before
we don't need more information.
Really?
Yes, we don't need it. What is interesting here is why is only this happening on the left and not the right? That's all we need to know. There's absolutely no cognitive...
What about Melissa Hortman that we just talked about?
You want to talk about Melissa Hortman? Did you know her name before it happened? None of us did. None of us were spending every single day talking about Mrs. Hortman. I never heard of her until after she died.
She doesn't matter?
Don't play that bullshit with me. You know what I'm saying is there was no demonization, amplification about that woman before she died. It was a specific crime against her by somebody who knew her. The same. Now you could bring up Josh Shapiro, but then you will not bring up, for example, that was a pro-Palestine person. So don't use your. What about this? The fact of the matter is the both sides argument not only doesn't fly, we don't care. We don't care about your both sides argument. That shit is dead. For one,
it is a sickness that these people have. And I hate to speak in those terms right now in the moment that we're in, but it's very, very difficult for Greg Gutfeld to tell me that I need to lower the temperature as his colleague Jesse Waters calls for a civil war. And Brian Kilmeade says that we need to euthanize homeless people. It's very difficult for that cast of shitheads to tell me it is my fault or it is your fault, when not only have we condemned political violence in every action that has happened, I remember doing it very loudly on January 6th, and you all moved on from that, but we've done it in our lives, in our actions, in how we vote against the policy failure that is the epidemic of gun violence, which clearly The host at Fox, they don't seem to care about. These people don't care. They refuse to acknowledge anything that breaks with their fake worldview. And one of those things is Donald Trump's clearly deteriorating health, which the White House is now freaking out over because this stumbly bumbly video has caught a lot of people's eyes. White House calls Trump's wildly veering walk perfect. President Donald Trump appeared to veer widely as he attempted to make a short walk to board Air Force One ahead of his British state visit. The president, 79, was heading from Marine One to his presidential plane at Joint Base Andrews on Tuesday when he began diverging to the left as the First Lady Melania Trump charted a straight path. POTUS, whose ankles, hands, and face have been in the spotlight, went so far off in one direction at one point that Melania disappeared out of shot as news cameras followed Trump's movements. He made it up the steps and into the plane, stopping briefly for a fist pump and a few signature-pointing gestures. White House firebrand comms chief Stephen Chung sent a foul-mouthed response when approached for comment about Trump's walk. "You must be effing blind or stupid, because that was a perfect walk," he told the Daily Beast. It is the third time in recent weeks his wobbly walk has been captured and capturing attention. With his zigzagging dash across the red carpet he rolled out for Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska last month, coming just days before a video appeared to show the president struggling to move his legs with any fluidity during a golf trip. During the outing, alongside former Major League Baseball pitcher Roger Clemens and his son Casey at Trump National Golf Club in Virginia, the president appeared to drag his right leg behind him as he moved. He's dragging that right leg again, and he can't walk in a straight line, Ben Meiselas of Midas Touch said, reviewing the video. It comes as commentators continually scrutinize the president's health, reoccurring bruising on his right hand and a recent droopy face on show during a 9/11 memorial last week have done little to silence the critics. Despite persistent speculation, the White House has consistently maintained that there is no cause for concern. Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt previously waved off the bruising on Trump's hand as minor soft tissue irritation caused by frequent handshaking and the use of aspirin, which is taken as part of a standard cardiovascular prevention regime. It comes after Trump was diagnosed with chronic venous insufficiency, an issue which occurs when leg veins don't allow blood to flow back up to the heart, causing it to pool in the lower limbs. So it's not just the ugly cankles. The cankles are causing Donald Trump to not be able to walk straight, which is no surprise. The man is in clear cognitive decline. But again, the mainstream media has become so numb to Donald Trump's complete failures as it comes in the cognitive department that they've ignored it. This is just Trump being Trump. And it really speaks to a larger problem we have in the way that politics is covered in the media when the smallest little Twitter account associated with anything that is liberal or progressive can be blown out of proportion by the right to completely represent our party, while Donald Trump can declare literal war on Chicago, and yet we can't get anyone to believe in the mainstream media that it's appropriate to say, yeah, maybe Donald Trump isn't anti-war, and maybe Donald Trump is the one raising tensions at this time. It's the reason why the right feels so comfortable to blow up any attack possible against transgender Americans. We're seeing it right now. The speculation, recent reporting from the FBI, which at times I am hard-pressed to trust, is saying that the alleged assailant of Charlie Kirk had a partner who was trans, who is, by the way, fully cooperating with law enforcement. That same individual, according to texts that we've received from law enforcement, was shocked at the action their alleged partner took. They were shocked and disturbed. They didn't egg it on. They weren't the one supporting the motive. They were shocked and disturbed and are now working with law enforcement. So the only possibility of a trans person in this story is someone shocked and disturbed at political violence now cooperating with the government to make sure it stops and investigated, and Republicans are attacking them and attacking the whole trans community. We've seen them say this person needs to be eradicated. After this nonsense narrative was pushed that somehow the bullets were trans, Nancy Mace was screaming bigoted remarks, slurs on the floor of Congress and outside the Capitol, saying that we need to do away with this disgusting ideology, as she calls it, refusing to acknowledge the literal existence in humanity of people who are the target of political violence on a day-to-day basis. They don't care for their safety, of course, because they refuse to acknowledge them, because these Republicans are disgusting people. That's what Nancy Mace was doing. Next day, we find out it's a white guy and we need to get Jesus in our lives to make sure that we can forgive him. That is the picture that they paint. That's the picture that the mainstream media allows them to paint, to define these narratives. And it's bullshit. It is that we allow our corporate media outlets to dictate the terms of this conversation. Well, we're certainly not going to allow that to happen. And someone who stays active online and making sure that the conversation is dictated correctly, Senator Chris Murphy, had a lot to say about Charlie Kirk that I think is important right now.
The shooting of Charlie Kirk could have been a line in the sand for this country. It was a tragedy that could have led the whole country to come together to do whatever is necessary to confront and stamp out political violence. But President Trump, predictably, and his allies, they've chosen a different route, and we need to talk about the seriousness of what might be coming in this country. First, let's be clear. There have been attacks on both Democrats and Republicans. The attackers have been radicalized by both the right and the left, but Trump and his anti-democratic, small d, allies, they see an opportunity to exploit the murder of Charlie Kirk and use it as an excuse to destroy his political opposition.
I think Senator Murphy is speaking to this moment in a very important way. I also think that a clip that I played the other day of a pastor speaking about how he was shocked that so many would disregard the vile bile spilled by Charlie Kirk in his life in favor of seemingly eulogizing this man. And the more we learn, the more we understand, the more the authorities share, does not change the fact that political violence in this country is something that has always been condemned and fought back against by the left, and something in the era of Donald Trump that has been encouraged and mocked by the right. And that these individuals who spew this hate contribute toward every day. That does not change. I refuse to be a person silenced, kowtowed into saying that that's not allowed anymore. That we have to be quiet and respectful of someone who incited nonstop harassment of black people for existing, of trans people for existing, of immigrants for existing. You want to talk about political violence? Look what Donald Trump does to immigrant communities every single day. This is not, as many would say, not who we are. This is exactly who we are, but some of us want to change it. And I'm going to talk about that every single day on this show. I will not be silenced. We're going to speak out. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And if you want something to relax a little bit today, some more fun, enjoyable video, I had a great interview with Governor Wes Moore. There's a lot of fun that you can watch right here. Do not let him silence you. Keep on fighting back. And until next time, I'll see you soon.